2009, a friend of mine became a yoga teacher, and I went to support her, take her class, and I really enjoyed it. And at that same time, I was a construction contractor here in Bend. I had a company called River Bend Heating and Cooling. And because work was so slow, I had the opportunity to start going to her yoga class every day. And I really enjoyed it, and I just kept going every day. And so that was in 2009 is when I started doing it down in the old mill at a studio called Bikram Yoga is where I learned it.
Now, that brings up something. There's a couple different styles of yoga I want to ask you. Bikram, and there's another one that begins with a V.
Vinyasa.
What's the difference between those?
You know, they're just disciplines, right? So there's really just one yoga in the world. It's called Hatha Yoga. And out of it grew many disciplines. So it's just different varieties and styles of, call it like training, just like there's different exercise routines that we do, whether it be weightlifting or running or cycling. So they're just disciplines with different names.
Different name for the same thing. So tell us about hot yoga, because that's a little different.
Yeah, so kind of organically over the last 40, almost 50 years, a group of people practicing in LA with a man named Bikram started doing this series that he put together, and he found that when some of the people would bring little heaters to their class and warm themselves up, he saw that they became more flexible. So the heat never came from India. It had nothing to do with India. It had to do with seeing that people became more flexible with the addition of heat. So over some decades now that people have been doing this, we've been able to actually measure what happens. So you get your heart rate up because it's a little bit warmer. You sweat, so your skin is cleansing because of the sweating. Every single thing on our planet gets softer when you warm it up, even the hardest rocks and metals. So your body's no different. We heat up the room slowly, a little bit. You physically are warming up slowly. Like the warm-up of the class is literally 45 minutes of warm-up. You know, a lot of exercise classes aren't even 45 minutes long.
No.
We warm up for 45 minutes before we do what we call the real yoga, and that's when we get down on the floor and do some mat poses. That really, the central thing of this yoga that we teach is about strengthening the muscles of your back to support your spine properly. And that's really what this particular series is all about. It's done exactly the same way every time. I've been doing it for 6 years. I've done the class thousands of times exactly the same way. It never varies. You might think that could be boring after time, but it's such a challenge to your body in that it's always improving, changing, healing, correcting. And what I really enjoy about it for practice myself is that when I'm there, I don't have to think. Somebody's saying, do this, do this, do this, and they're telling you to do it the correct way, so you get the benefit of doing it the correct way. Yeah, I really enjoy teaching it and doing it.
So strengthening the core back muscles is a real important thing.
Absolutely.
The focus of it. What are other benefits of yoga?
Well, some of the postures that we do are inversions, and an inversion is simply getting your head below your heart. But we do it at times that we've gotten your heart rate up a little bit, we've got you oxygenated, we've got you breathing and your heart pumping, and then we turn you upside down. Well, when you do that to your brain, it has a benefit to it, right? So we don't just take care of your muscles and joints, we work on our organs. So we do compression poses that literally squeeze our internal organs to flush them out. So things like depression and anxiety can be relieved without using chemicals by just simply doing yoga regularly.
Yeah, that's really true.
Yeah, it's one of the biggest benefits is endocrine system balancing. But then balance. I have people that I teach private classes that are nearly 70 years old and they need to maintain their balance. And so we do balance exercises, their poses, to maintain our balance. Because you know, when we start losing balance, start falling down, it's not good for us.
So, you know,
for the elderly.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, because I was reading recently, they said the hardest thing, like my age and older, is that we've lost balance, we've lost muscle tone,
right,
and that will cause us to age quicker.
Exactly, and that's what this yoga is really good at meeting. I'm not a typical yoga teacher. You know, I'm a 51-year-old male. Most of your yoga teachers in this world are the other end of the spectrum from me, and so I kind of bring to people the reality that, look, we're aging and we got to take care of ourselves. You know, you're not going to find a Lululemon showroom in my yoga studio. You're going to find moms and dads and grandpas and ranchers and computer programmers, and I've got this one cool biker dude that shows up now and then, and it's just really fun to be able to help people feel better. And you know, on true physical measurement things, I have a client that has been watching his numbers for his heart disease, and he's been able to show a reduction in his numbers. And so the doctor's like, keep doing this yoga. And he's been doing it consistently for 2 years, and he has found that it's made him healthier. I mean, he has documentation that he's getting healthier as a result of simply doing yoga, exercising.
That's really good. The other thing I wanted to bring up is you vary your class according to ability, because a lot of us people go, I'm stiff, I'm not doing those poses. You know,
Right.
we see that stylized, fancy version out there.
That's something, when I had my larger East Side studio, every class was almost exactly the same. But now they have this smaller downtown studio where I teach smaller groups and also private classes. If the heat is too much for this person, then we're not going to have as much heat. But it's their own class, it's their own space, its own time. So yeah, I have some clients that 80 degrees might be a hot yoga class, you know. And then I have friends that like it much warmer than that, you know. So everybody's a little bit different. The most important thing is keeping people moving, keeping them moving.
And it's okay if you can't bend over, you can't, you know, let's say you have that kind of stiffness.
Yeah, that's the thing. You don't go to yoga because you're flexible. You go to yoga because you need to work on your flexibility. You need to maintain your flexibility. And that's the thing. Many people after the first couple classes, they'll come out and they'll say, Steve, you know, that one thing you asked me to do, my range of motion is such I can't do that. And I explain to them that what they're talking about is the range of motion of their life is only using their body in that range of motion. But their body physically has a greater range of motion. It's just been lost or damaged in some way. And so we need to work on healing, correcting, and then improving to maintain the range of motion of your body, especially shoulders, hips, spines. You know, our hips take us where we got to go. Our hands and shoulders got to deliver to ourselves the things we want. You know, and our spine is supporting it all. So.
What are other benefits of yoga? You've mentioned the strengthening, flexibility.
A lot of people sleep better. You know, a lot of people, you know, do sleep better. A lot of people gain energy through the day. You know, something about revving yourself up. It's this yoga practice that I teach, this particular 26 and 2 series in the heat. It uses quite a bit of energy, but we live in quite an active town, so a lot of people are used to, you know, spending some energy. But for others, they may be looking for some sort of exercise and they don't know what to do and where to go to do it, and do it safely and correctly. And that's what's really great about this yoga series is you don't have to know anything about yoga. You don't have to have done it before, because step by step, every class, I'm going to direct you safely into and out of the postures to the best degree for your body on that day. And it's just a little bit different than some yoga classes. Sometimes people go to a big yoga class and they feel lost in the back of the pack and the crowd, not really doing it the right way. And that's not how I teach, and that's not how my studio works. I'm going to be there teaching you, even if it's 4 or 5 people. You know, the people that come to my studio, they appreciate that I really teach them how to do it the right way for their body. And it may be a little variation from what they'd learned before, but if they're past the basics, if they've done it for a little while, and now it's like, okay, now let's try this little bit, hand grip here, and, you know, put your chin a little bit more here, things like that. And so I've had people that have practiced this particular yoga for years, after a short time, tell me, I've learned more from you in a couple months than I did those years. And I have to explain, they were in a large group where the whole group had to be taken care of, and everybody needed to be led to do it safely and correctly. And so individualized attention is hard to get in that. And that's really more of what I've been specializing in the last year. My studio's been open for 3 years, but this last year I decided to focus on private clients, smaller groups. So a group at my class is like 10 people. There's never going to be 30 or 40 or 50 people in my yoga studio. A group is 10 people. And small private classes I offer, one, you know, for individuals and couples too.
So you said that you allow the temperature to be at different ranges for
Yes.
different groups.
If it's a public group, like if it's the 9 a.m. Tuesday morning hot yoga class, it's going to be probably 95 to 100. But if it's a private client that's nearly 70 years old, it might only be 80 degrees for their class. So it just depends on what.
So a person can just go and find out what group would works within the range that they feel comfortable.
And when I have brand new people, we're not going to be pushing the higher end of things. Right? That's why it's probably going to be more like 90, and and that's the thing, is it's not about knocking you down because of the heat. It's about helping you to get the benefits of the heat. And one of the benefits is if you are more warmed up, you will be more flexible. You'd be surprised the difference. It's like you're not going to walk in the room and suddenly be doing deep stretching poses. That's not going to happen until about an hour into being in there, moving around some.
So how long do your classes last?
90 minutes.
90 minutes. Oh, okay.
About 45 minutes of warm up, but it's exercise.
Right.
And then 45 minutes on the floor. So there's a standing series, there's a floor series where you're using your yoga mat. And when you come, you want to bring a mat, a large towel, because you're probably going to be sweating a little bit, and drink some water before, during, after. That's the one thing that practicing yoga regularly for me has done, is it causes me to hydrate far better than I would if I wasn't practicing. I just wouldn't drink as much water. But when you're in there doing that, you want the water, and I encourage people to drink as much as they want.
So the yoga gives you a chance to get your levels up, like your heart level,
Absolutely.
rate, and that sort of thing. But you're not doing the pounding kind of exercise like running.
No,
or
we're improving your joints, we're healing your joints, we're correcting your joints, we're strengthening them. We do a lot of standing postures where we're contracting the thigh and the leg muscles, which all cross the knee joint. And some people have heard this term from this yoga called lock the knee, and they get freaked out by this lock the knee thing. That's really doesn't completely explain what you're doing. You are literally contracting every muscle in your leg, which is below your knee, and your thigh, which is above your knee, and some of your hip muscles. Why? So that outside of that yoga room, you have greater control, greater strength of a very critical joint, your knee, right? But we're not just working on the knee, we're working on the hip, we're working on the spine, we're working on the shoulders.
Yeah, I heard that was one of the things with all elderly people, that they don't have leg strength, and if they fall, they can't get up.
Right.
And that would help strengthen that.
Yeah. That's why you practice, is you're practicing to be able to do things outside of the room. It's not about what you can do in the room. Everything you do in the room is about affecting your life outside of the room.
Do you ever get people who come there that have been referred by a doctor, like even with a doctor's orders, such as somebody would go to physical therapy for that? Do you ever have any people?
I haven't seen that particular order, but there's a chiropractor in town that both sends his wife and his clients to me for private classes regularly. You know, that's as far as connections in medical, the largest segment of people that I've ever trained in Bend, Oregon have been St. Charles workers and primarily nurses. You know, so the people that are out there taking care of people, I get great joy in taking care of them. You know, when they come and I'm helping them to feel better, and I know that they have a much more difficult job and dealing with much more difficult things in the hospital than I do, it feels good to me to help them feel better.
Oh yes, I'm sure they do. Just getting those good stretching.
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
things.
lots of nurses and people in every department. Really, I've got people in the IT from the hospital that I train.
So, Steve, do you have a website?
Pretty much the website that I use is my Facebook page, and so if you just Google, there's the page name is Bend Yoga and Steve's Hot Yoga, or if you just simply Google Steve's Hot Yoga, you're going to find it. It's really easy to find me.
Okay, and where are you located again? Your address?
This is at 925 Wall Street, which is just above from Local Joe and the Taj Palace. So that two-story downtown building, there's several businesses and studios upstairs, and we're up there.
And you have a phone that people could...
Yeah, my phone number is 541-410-1785.
And we'll have that posted on our Facebook page also.
Right, yeah, I always post those things so people can follow to the web or to the Facebook page on.
Thank you. It's kind of you ladies to invite me in today. I really appreciate it, and it worked out.
Yeah, this is fascinating. I have to say, my chiropractor has suggested that I do yoga too. So.
And here we have the yoga.
Carol, and let's get some good.
Be my guest, ladies. Show up. That's the hardest part of showing up.
Yeah.